Hey, Mark. How's it going? Yeah, so we're doing something a little weird today. Uh, so last week I was doing this live participation stuff. Yeah, Fridays are nice. Um, Last week we were doing this live participation stuff, and I was digging into presents a little bit. And uh, I actually ended up with a pretty cool little plug. Let me show this off. Um, where did I put it? I think I just put it in a router, weirdly. Yeah, this is not the best place for it. I kind of want to publish this as a hex package. That's my first hex package. But I I posted something to the Phoenix mailing list. Uh, Phoenix Talk. Because in Chris's presence screencast, he is showing things off, and he uses a user ID, right? Most applications have a user model and they have authentication, but some are anonymous, right? And so, how do you use like a cookie session to sort of persistently identify anonymous users? Um, so I ended up with this tiny little plug to do that. So if we look, fetch session sort of initializes a cookie session in Phoenix. So it like parses the cookie that was sent down with the request and makes it so that the session methods work. The get session con, so that this works and that the put works, right? So fetch session sets that up, and then often you would have some like um, you know some like authenticate user plug. Um, but here we're just talking anonymous users, right? And I was also sort of figuring the plug stuff out because I haven't touched it in a while. Um, yeah. So all we do here, oh geez, my scroll is a little aggressive. All we do here is, we get this UUID off of the session if it exists, um, and assign it onto the connection. If it doesn't exist, then we create one using this UUID module, which is pretty nice, super simple. This thing. Uh, yeah, it's great. If your app is using Ecto, there is something ecto.uuid.generate or something like that. But this is nice if you don't have Ecto. This thing doesn't use the database at all, so I don't have Ecto as a dependency, and I didn't want to install it just to generate a UUID, so this is a great. You can also do like based on your MAC address, or you can choose to do like based on only random information. Um, so yeah, this is a nice little thing, and they just have UUID on hex. I love it when just I need to generate a UUID, so the package is just called UUID. That gives me confidence. I feel great when packages have like the simple name. Um, yeah. yeah, so that was cool. I got that set up. And then once I had this authentication set up, I noticed that my app was doing weird things when I had multiple connections for the same user. And I was digging into it. I assumed it was an issue with my code, but in Chris's original screencast, he says that the like presences that are stored are like the most recently updated one is supposed to be first in the array, but that was not happening. So I dug into it, and it's actually like in phoenix.js. Um, right, so right here is where on the client you handle the diff events for presences. There's also like you can get state events at the beginning, but it basically converts it into a diff and then delegates to sync diff. I guess because he didn't even mention in the screencast there's this like these on join and on leave handlers, and so in order to trigger those correctly, they just delegate to sync diff. So the important thing is right here. This is what the bug is. Basically, this should be .push instead of unshift. So what happens is the new presences array is set to just be the most recent presence, and then all the previously existing presences are pushed in front. And then any leaves are then processed afterwards and removed from the array. So I mean, like, I could see how unshift, if you took the new one and unshifted it onto the existing array, that would make sense to me. Um, but yeah, this is just a little backwards. So we're going to dig in a little bit. We're going to look at the documentation, and we're going to look at the tests, and we're going to figure this all out. Yeah. It's just you and me, Mark. That's okay. I didn't really plug it as hard this week as I did last week, but that's okay. I also like put a little bit of effort into, the show site. I got sort of like a previous episode section, and I uploaded the footage from last week to YouTube. I'm going to do this for all the episodes, but yeah, it's actually like, figuring out how to compress a video well for YouTube and stuff. It takes some research, but it's cool. All right, so let's look what I'm doing locally. So I cloned Phoenix locally. We're going to be a little light on instructions on how to do things because the contributing guide is definitely geared more towards the Elixir contributions as opposed to the JavaScript contributions. In the contributing guide right here, well, I mean, they basically show, generating the Elixir docs. And then, there's the mix test task, which runs the Elixir tests. But you have to dig in like a little bit to figure out how to run all the client stuff. But if we do look at Phoenix, it's got a package.json. So if we look at that, there's an npm test command which runs Mocha. So this will be the client tests. And then there's also, there's a brunch. Brunch is like the JavaScript build stuff. So there's a brunch config. And let's see, I don't really know how brunch works. I mean, it compiles these directories, I guess. wraps it in an immediately invoked function expression and dumps them somewhere. But there's a branch build command that we can run to rebuild that after we made changes. Let's see. In my opinion, there should probably be like a this sort of thing. Yeah. So I don't have brunch installed globally, right? So if I try to brunch build, that doesn't work because I don't have the brunch node module installed globally. How familiar are you with node and npm? Okay, cool. Yeah, so these are kind of run like in the context of the node modules. So inside one of these tasks, you can use any executables installed by these things, whereas you can't globally. But there is like a bit of a trick inside the node modules is this bin directory. And so in here are all the dependencies or all the binaries installed or all the executables installed by any of your node modules. So you can just manually go in here and run, for example, Mocha or Brunch. Yeah. So, all right, we've got our brunch building and our brunch watching. We've got our JavaScript tests. So the one thing I am not sure about right now is if we look at phoenix.js, there's all this documentation here inside the file. And I don't really know if this gets processed or put anywhere. I mean, I know the Elixir docs that are in file like this do get processed when you do, oh, there's a command in there. When you do this thing, when you do mixed docs, those get generated. But it seems to be just the Elixir ones, like this style. Yeah, see, this is like the locally generated documentation right here. But there's no mention of the front end stuff. So I don't know if that does get processed or used at all, or if it's just inline in the file. So listing presences. So all the presents made it. So I just want to check if this documentation even mentions the ordering. Huh. Okay, so I may actually be a little bit off on what the ordering is meant to be. So because right here, this code is looking at the first item in the metas array, right? And the documentation says this prioritizes the first metadata which was registered for each user. which is different than what I thought the intended behavior was. But it's also, this is also different from what the current behavior is. Right now, the current behavior is basically it preserves the current ordering, but puts any recent updates at the end of the list, which just seems wrong. Just seems like the least helpful possible. So, I mean, either way, it's like not a huge code change. So we can just write a test and like working through all the logistics of doing the PR and that kind of thing will be useful, whichever way is correct. But perhaps I will bug the Phoenix core mailing list about that, see what they think. Yeah, let's do that. One second. All right. Yeah, so this is something I sent out last night when I found the bug, and so I will just link to this code to add a little more info to the thing. Web static.js. All right. So we can't really touch the documentation because we just don't know what to write, but we can make a test. So let's dig into that a little bit. So I think the test is in like web test. Yeah, it's in here. The Elixir tests are in the top level test, but the JavaScript tests are right here. Phoenix web test, presence test. And this is what happens when we do npm tests instead of mix test. And it's run using Mocha. If you're more familiar with Node, you've probably seen Mocha. This is like a suite, and then this is a single test case. So let's get started with that. Okay, web test, presence test. Here we go. Joins, leaves, state. Sync state. So I think what we do is we add a a test for sync diff. It's going to be something like it preserves most recently updated meta ordering, something like this. Where did I? Little JavaScript thing. I'm not a huge fan of using these arrow functions in place of function keywords like everywhere. Like I would normally do this instead. I basically want only to use this for the new features. I feel like it can be a communication tool if you use it only for the new features. So when you do something like X and you use it as like an expression, something like that, that's useful. And then also when you explicitly do want to like preserve the this context, I like using this. But I like it to be a signal that you care about this, care about preserving the this context. But it's not a big deal. In general, I think caring too much about style, like code style, is just leads to sort of random friction with your team or other contributors or stuff. So I try to be pretty laid back about style. Okay. So our state. Okay. So what's our assert going to be? It's going to be that our state has some ordering, basically, right? Um, yeah, so we want like a new entry to be placed at the front of the array. At the moment, it's ending up at the end. So then, what's our trigger is that we do the update. I guess we'll sync diff with joins. I don't really know what the structure is here. I guess it's like this. It is. And this will be the newest one, I guess. Newest. I don't know if this is right. I'm probably for, like, the Phoenix ref here might be relevant. I'm not really sure. But we're basically like adding this new meta information. That's the joins. Leaves are empty. Yeah, I think that's what we want. Something like that anyway. And then what's our initial state? It's like this. But without the newest. Yeah, so that's probably probably not quite right, but we'll run with it. Yeah, okay, something went wrong. I just didn't declare my variable. Yeah. Okay, line 123. What's the error? Let me know if you see what's going on, because this is not obvious to me. Unexpected token. Oh, okay. Sure. So I like screwed up my. There we go. Unexpected token. Yeah, all these nested objects, I'm getting them wrong. Okay, array, object, object. Another key, empty. Close the option object, close the function call. Oh, perfect. See, we expect it at the beginning and instead it's at the end. Dan and Beard. May all the gods bless the people who write JS tools. I really like JavaScript as a language. I think it's awesome. It allows you to do some like super sloppy stuff. But what I love about JavaScript, I love that you can just have this, and then you can just do o dot whatever equals value, right? The fact that you can do that is just amazing. When like I I started working with Swift a little while ago. I wanted to like write an iPhone game, and it's so like the syntax just looks like JavaScript, but then it's a statically typed language. So you just can't do things like this because um, you know, like you're not really allowed to have uninitialized value unless you make them optional types. Um, so I would just constantly try to do things where I, as the programmer, know I'm not going to use this before it's initialized. I know at what point I initialize it and blah, 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 right? And but the compiler just is not okay with that. And then also just like this is just amazing that you just have really easy function expressions, and it just feels closed and good to me. Like some other languages have lambdas, and it's just like it uses like white space syntax rules. Um, it'll be like lambda arg goes to like body of function or something, but then like I just really like having the curly braces around the body of the expression. It makes me feel safe and comfortable. Yeah, lexical sort is a little weird. Traverse a nested object. Find the object property path. Oh, like doing something like this. Yep, 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 yep. Yeah, well, I mean, you're not gonna pull Ember in to do this, but the like ember.get works like that. Um, that's sup. Oh, isn't that like I think that outputs isn't that like super mark? Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's so that shows, where JavaScript was originally, what it was originally meant for. That's pretty funny. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing. Anyway, um, yeah, so we got our test. Yeah, a lot has changed in JavaScript for sure. Yeah. But it's like, I JavaScript is like kind of human. It's got some baggage, it's got some quirks, but like deep down, it's a person with thoughts and feelings, um, and you love it anyway. That's kind of how I feel about JavaScript. It's like a family member. Um, okay, so we have this bug, and this is, um, I mean, it's a bug. We don't know what like the actual intended behavior is. Um, like whether updating a presence should bump it to the front of the list, or whether only like full-on joins should bump it to the beginning of the list. But um, I mean, my opinion is most recently updated should be at the beginning of the list, right? If someone um, is signed in on their desktop and then they sign in on their phone and then they like change their desktop from away to online. Um, I mean, it seems like desktop is their most recently touch thing. That makes sense. Yeah. Thanks for joining, Dan. I'll see you around. Okay. So we've got this failing test. Let's just go make the quick little change I was talking about, and we'll see if it breaks um, everything. Here we go. So if we just change this to push, let's see what happens. Okay. I think that fixed our breaking test, but it broke some other things, so we can look into that. Sync diff removes presence when meta is empty and adds additional meta. Sync state on joins only newly added metas. Yeah. Okay, so we do have to dig in and understand this Phoenix ref stuff a little bit. Um, These metas are tracking one user state across multiple devices. Um, yeah, so it is. Um, yeah, so it's basically user one has a set of metas. I'm not even sure they need this metas layer. It almost seems like it could just be user one corresponds to a list of states. But I think they're just allowing for more information to show up here in the future. Yeah, each one of these corresponds to an active open connection. So if one user is logged in on their phone and their browser, they might have two. If one user has three browser tabs open, they might have three. So it's like literally active connections. It's often open sockets, but there's long pull support also. And actually, I have to go use the bathroom real quick, so I'll be back in a minute or two. Hello, I'm back. Okay. So let's just look at the first failed test. Try to understand what's going on. Thank you. Okay. On joins only newly added metas. Oh, that's in the wrong order in this test. Okay. So basically just yeah. Actually, wait, can we do this? Yeah. So new pres is it's expecting new pres metas. It's expecting this in the other order. Current new pres. Wait, are these even supposed to have like different keys? Joined. What is joined? Some array that's built up on join. Okay, so it's a record of on join events. It's a record of on joined events. Joined key equals current new pres. So what they were doing originally, what they're doing originally is setting the metas array to be only the one received in the event. So let's see. So state is like this. Right? So this is what state is like. And then new presence is one of the joins. And the joins look like, okay, it's just like a single meta record. So the joins look like, it's like an array of these. Oh, no, it's not an array, it's an object. If I guess it's usually just one, but it's possible that if someone joins simultaneously from two devices or something like that, it might be like, you know, so what they're doing is basically setting state to be joins, sort of, and then they are unshifting to the beginning of this array any existing ones. So what they do is they unshift this one in the beginning, like that. So what you have is an array where all, you know, if there was like this, you end up with the existing order preserved at the beginning and then any new ones at the end. They're unshifting the most recently. They're unshifting the like current state to the beginning of the most recently updated metas. So it receives the most recently updated metas and then unshifts existing state to the beginning of that, which is weird. So I think it should, this is even like, it feels kind of like a backwards way to do it, right? That was confusing to talk about right there. So I would probably do something more like, I would just take the existing stuff, not do this, and just put the new ones in the beginning. That's how I would handle it. I don't really know why they don't do it like this. I wonder what happens if we do that. Right, okay, so state key equals new presence. So if we just leave the current presence there, and we unshift new presence, how's that work out? We get some like oldest connection to newest connection. Yeah, I think, well, that's the current behavior. I don't think it's what they want. Based on the screencast and based on the documentation there, I don't think that's what they want. But this is like sort of some complicated code, so I just understand messing that up, and it's sort of working. So we need copies of the two things also. Can we do this? Object.clone is not a function. This.clone, okay. Second word. Unexpected token U in JSON, position 0. Okay, so that did seem to break things. What were they doing? Current presence. So, I mean, one thing they're doing is they're being careful not to mutate this current presence, right? That's one thing they gain by doing it sort of this reverse way, which is fine. JSON.parse, JSON.stringify. It's a funny way to clone. It's kind of an expensive way to clone, actually. Probably. But yeah, if we just leave the new ones at the front and go like this, I think is pretty much what we want. We just have these two failing tests to dig into a little bit. So let's put this only back. And I think the solution here is just to change the test. New presence. So join, there should be a single on join for user 3 where the new presence has the new one at the beginning. Yeah, I think it should just be at the beginning instead of at the end. Like that. So there might be some discussion around that. But we'll see when I open the PR, I guess. So we do that. The other failing one is sync diff removes presence. When meta is empty, is that the test? And adds additional meta, yeah. And it's failing for the same reason, it's just in the opposite order it's expecting. Removes presence when meta is empty and adds additional meta. So this is just a sync diff with the fixtures, which are up at the top. And it expects something to happen. So let's look at the fixtures. Yeah, fixtures look like that. So the state is 1, 2, and 3, and the joins is you get a new 1.2, and the leaves is 2 is gone. Removes presence. I don't even remember how it calculates which ones to remove. User states as oldest join to newest join. Yeah, you know, I think this is a bug. I think someone got confused about unshift and like which one they were shifting onto and that kind of thing. Right, because we looked at the documentation, and it says the example below prioritizes the first metadata which was registered for each user. Oh, so they actually do want to prioritize oldest connection first. Yeah, you're right. That seems less useful to me, but sure. Is that what's happening currently? That's also not what's happening currently, right? Because if they update their status on their oldest tab, it will end up at the end of the list instead of remaining at the beginning of the list. Um, Yeah, so the current list ordering is least recently updated to most recently updated. It's not even oldest joined to newest joined. It's least recently updated to most recently updated, right? Um, because imagine someone joins tab A, joins tab B, joins tab C, right? What will happen is first we'll have a join from A, then B will be newer, so it will be pushed to the end, so it'll end up like that. And then C will be newer, so it will be pushed to the end, like that. And now if someone updates B, it will be pushed to the end. So we have A, C, B. And A was the least recently updated, so yeah, that's the current ordering. I'm pretty sure. But no one's responding to me on this mail, at least not in a day. I'll give it a little more time, but that does, I mean, like, I guess it is a reliable ordering. It's just least useful, especially based on the example in the screencast they use is uh, they, or Chris, he like, yeah, like you can destructure the array using first and rest, right? Um, the easiest one to get is the one at the beginning of the list, not at the end of the list. You know, if it was easier to get from the end of the list, things might be different. But it's easy to get from the beginning of the list, right? And so what, like, it makes sense to put at the beginning of the list the one you care the most about, and that's almost always going to be the most recently updated. Sure. So updated is speed channel. So there's a presence.track, which begins tracking a new active connection. So when someone joins from a second tab, you call track. But if someone updates their presence, so on an existing tab, they change their status from online to away, for example, then you update. If you called a track in that instance, you would be creating a new presence by accident. So if for every update, when someone changes online to away, if you just use track each time, you'll end up with a growing and growing list of metas, basically. So yeah, I mean, it's manual calls to update. Like if someone, if part of your app was not using presence, right? So usually like presence is for sort of a small set of information related to your connection. So it wouldn't make sense to store chat messages in the presence. It's more like current status, right? So you wouldn't be sending your chat messages over presence. You'd just be pushing it along the channels regularly or whatever. So yeah, got it. Cool. Um, well, yeah, I mean, my opinion is just that it should be like this instead. So um, let's go with that. We'll open a PR, there'll be some discussion, and you know, if people disagree, they can just not merge it, or we can change it to be, you know, most recently joined connection as opposed to updated, or we can change it to be, I don't know, whatever. Our tests pass now. Something I would like to do. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Yeah, that's how I feel. So we did all that. Great. Um, I want to link to this local version of Phoenix. Um, so that my app can take advantage of that behavior. Um, we don't really need to do that for the PR, but it's something I want to figure out. So what I did right now, trying to link it in, was I went to my depths and I changed my Phoenix one. It did have, you know, it had like 1.2 is the version, I think. So I just changed it to a local path to my locally cloned one. But now I'm getting a conflict for Phoenix Live Reload has a dependency on Phoenix also. Oh, I can also override true, I guess, because I know that this is like 1.2 Phoenix, so it should be fine. Override true, does that work? I think that works. Okay, so now I have so I have two presences for two users. One of them has 3 active connections. So if I use like the middle connection and change it, it just still works. Well, no, it doesn't work. Yeah, what I would have wanted to see here is we should be using the linked version of Phoenix, and so we'd be building in that new phoenix.js with the changes. But it seems like maybe we're not getting that new one. If we look at the sources, yeah, the phoenix.js we're getting still has unshift instead of push. So I guess we have to rebuild my app somehow. This is a brunch message right here. So we did do a rebuild. So we're just getting a phoenix.js from somewhere, and I don't know where it's coming from. So I just don't really know know what to do here at all. I guess we have to dig into how the brunch build is working, right? Let's look at brunch config. So JS app.js. Web static, priv static. Okay, so I mean this is this is brunch. If we look at web static JS, when we import socket and presence from Phoenix, right? This is sort of how we, I don't know how this ends up in our bundle. I wonder. So app.js, right? This, we see arrow functions, right? Which means we are looking through a source map. I don't know if there's a way to stop looking through the source map. JS. Okay, right. Here is not using the source map. Right, so here we have unshift, okay. And then I think we should also have my custom code. What's something I say in my, this. Yeah. So this is our bundle, okay. So js/app.js is being built from something. Here, what is Phoenix HTML? I don't think it's relevant. So I'm wondering, I'm trying to talk out loud as I look through this stuff. Do you think I am, I don't know. So I've experienced pairing with people sitting next to them, but really it's just their coding. They're kind of doing their own thing, and then you're also there. So I'm trying to talk out loud enough that you know what I'm doing, but I don't know. Am I succeeding? Is it like this guy is going too fast? I don't really understand what thread he's following, or am I doing a good job of communicating that? Great. That's good to hear. Yeah. I don't know. I think, I'll probably dig into this a little bit more, but it is two. I started at one. I don't want this to be too long of a thing. I kind of want people to feel like they can join for their lunch break and see most of it. So I think I'm going to go for today, but that was pretty cool. Last week I tried to be like, I tried to give a lesson and do some live coding. Today was more kind of had a goal, and then I'm going to go there and just try to communicate clearly and answer questions. It was way more relaxed. There's a lot less pressure to sort of like be an expert, I guess. So I don't know. This was super nice. I'm looking forward to next week. Yeah, I'll keep you posted. Um, Thanks for stopping by. Audience of one was, fine. All right, I will. Okay, goodbye. Here's a hallway. Woo. And I'll see you later.